So we just wrapped up Picking Winners Live. This is a good one. I put this thing out there as graduation month, and I was hoping that we would get some young people, and we got like all young people. So that was really, really cool. I love hearing that young folks are coming out of college and looking at real estate as their path, because it's never been a better time. Because people like us are here, giving away all the education, giving away all the data, creating technology and services to make it easier and more transparent and more predictable and dependable. So I hope you like it. Thanks. Hello and welcome to Picking Winners Live. My name is Greg Rand. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Renters Warehouse. Quick bit of background. Renters Warehouse is America's leading real estate investment services company. So we're a property management company, a real estate brokerage company, and an online portal, all in one, especially for real estate investors in the residential single family space. So I have no hobbies. I have no other interests except for this. And so we put this show together because there's a lot of people out there that have questions about these sorts of things. I've got a background of having dealt with, literally, we counted them up one day, tens of thousands of investment decisions that have been made by clients of mine. But the organization has been about servicing real estate investors, some very, very large ones and a lot of smaller ones. My favorite, the entrepreneurial ones that are doing this for their own personal account. Because I know that any family that has somebody in their bloodline that decides to accumulate and build a portfolio of quality real estate in America, they set their bloodline up in perpetuity by virtue of doing that. What I was saying was, I come from a family where my grandparents were immigrants from Italy and from Ireland, different sides of the family. So they both families, toughed it out on the boats. The story, so many people my age, they were second or third generation immigrants. So many families these days are first, second, or third. But they have a similar story. And if you looked at their family bloodline over the long, if there was such a thing as a line chart that you could look at of your family and how well they were doing, prosperity, quality of life, financial success, all those kinds of measurements. My family, if you saw this straight line, you'd see it pop back in the late 30s into 40s, because that's when that generation came here, all right? And so they came here, they valued the American spirit of independence, they valued education, and they pushed their kids to be self-reliant, and the rest is history. And so I always kind of had it in my head that was so cool. Like, I had a huge amount of respect for my grandparents and anybody in that generation who did that, because I can just imagine, I get on a train in a foreign city in America and I'm looking around a little bit nervous, and I'm 240 pounds, could at least create the perception that I can hold my own. But here was like kids getting on a boat and traveling across the sea to a place they'd never been to before. How many stories have you heard? People have $6 in their pocket, and yet they came, and the result was our entire family bloodline was elevated as a result of that. I can't do that, I'm already here, but what I can do is accumulate a quality portfolio of real estate. We call it owning America, because that's what it is. So now that I was lucky enough to be born here, it's my job to accumulate enough of it, the country, so that my kids, grandkids, all the way down the line, so that hopefully someday if there's a line chart of my family, it pops in the 30s and 40s, then it pops again in the turn of the century, because of the contribution that I make of setting everybody else up in the future with a big position of American real estate. So that's what I dream about. That's what I focus my energies on. I'm buying properties all the time. My personal investment strategy is I work very hard to pick the right place. I'm very much about the location thing. Therefore, I don't care about getting a great deal. To me, the location is the deal. Being able to buy a place that's got upward pressure on demand, values, rents, and so forth. So I literally went into contract on a property yesterday that I paid asking price, and I'm making an offer this weekend on another property, and I'm paying asking price. The houses are in perfect condition. They've been renovated, so the investors that I'm buying them from are making a nice profit to sell it to me, and they're going to look back in 5 years and be bummed out because they should have held those properties, because they're about $200,000 each, and they'll be worth $275 to $300 in 5 or 6 years, because there's a train station going in that's going to be a short commute to uptown Charlotte within walking distance of these houses. So that's kind of gives you an idea of what I think about quality. It's not just good house, good neighborhood, but also something happening, something brewing in town that's going to create upward pressure on demand. You'll let me know, you'll flag when we have any kind of live questions?
We have a written question that's really good.
Oh yeah, we have a good one? Okay, so I'll do this stuff later. Let's get that.
Hi, I am a college student who is crazy about learning real estate. As I have been on this journey, I have become more and more secluded from my friends. I feel as if I become distracted from my goals if I spend too much time with them. Am I wrong for being like this? Did you experience this shift at the beginning of your journey?
Wow, what an awesome thing. So thank you, Nathan. You know, I forgot to mention that this is the recent graduates edition of Picking Winners. I really wanted to try to attract people just like Nathan. So hopefully you heard the question that he's a motivated guy. And he's got big goals, and real estate is one of the areas, or the main area, where he wants to build his fortune, but he's finding that he's spending so much time focusing on it that it's creating distance between him and his friends. I don't know your friends. Hopefully they are motivated, or at least some of them are motivated, inspired people also. I would think that if you were doing something at this point in your life when you're supposed to be, right, you're looking to build a future for yourself, and so I think you're doing the right thing. I think bringing your friends along is probably a good idea. You know, to answer your question about did I find this was the case when I was younger, I guess, yeah, now that you mentioned it, when I think back, I did so badly in school, I didn't even realize I was supposed to do that well. My parents told me I was supposed to be trying hard, but I just couldn't try that hard. I didn't care that much. But then as soon as I graduated, I remember thinking that people thought that I was, because I was so unmotivated in school, that kind of translated into not a motivated person in general. But I was so hyper motivated once I got out because I wanted to make money and I wanted to build something and be a success and make my parents proud. For some reason, I didn't care about making them proud with my grades, but I cared a lot about making them proud in my career. And you're right, there were some people that weren't in that same mode. And you know, I went out and bought suits. I was a sales guy, so I got a briefcase. I got suits. I got an apartment. I was out hustling, and I look back now and realize that I actually made a handful of new friends at that time as a result of my interests shifting. So I wouldn't suggest that you should distance yourself from them, but if you're pursuing something that's important to you, and that's causing a natural distancing, I guess my sense is that those folks should probably want to be engaged and involved. I think you'll probably rub off on them, on some of them anyway, and be a good influence on them. But if you do have people that are, if it ever starts to show up where they start to get mad at you because you're so motivated, that's going to be a reflection on how they feel about themselves. They're not, you know, maybe they want to play video games and smoke weed and sit on the couch and stay in mom and dad's basement forever. You could still hang out with those guys and gals, but if they start to make you feel bad about wanting to be something, then maybe you need to, you know, make some new friends. So, was there anything related to real estate in the question?
Just getting started investing.
Getting started, yeah. So here's getting started in investing. You need money to make money in real estate. Anybody who tells you otherwise is trying to sell you a program, but it's not going to play out. You know, there's definitely no free lunch. You know all the cliches. There is no way to make money with no money. Okay, now you can find somebody who's willing to sell you a property super cheap, but if you don't have any money to work with, what you're doing is kind of playing a game of trying to get them to be willing to sell you the property so that you can then go find somebody else to actually sell the property to, but you don't actually buy the property at all. It's called a contract flip. So you find somebody over here who's totally desperate, wants to sell a $200,000 house for $120,000. You say, okay, you sign a contract to buy that house, but you don't have the money to buy it. So you're kind of misleading them a little bit, which doesn't accrue to a good career long term. Then you try to find somebody to sell the property to for $200,000, and then you sort of like introduce the two parties. And along the way, the person who's selling the house is going to figure out that you screwed them because the house got sold for $200 and they only got paid $120. So in that situation, you have a person whose financial mistakes now include trusting you. So I would avoid that. I would work really hard in as many jobs as you need to, in whatever capacity you need to make money and save it. And then be able to build up a healthy enough down payment so that you're putting down 30, 35, 40% on a property, buying it responsibly. If you're buying something for less than it's worth, rent it, hang on to it. If you want to sell it because you can pull money out of it, go to the next one, you can roll that up. We call that a snowball strategy. Great example of the snowball is starting by buying your first property, buying a two-family, living in one unit, renting out the other. right? If it's a two-family that has one lousy, basement studio and then a nice two-bedroom apartment upstairs, live in the studio, rent out the upstairs. You're going to find that you have enough income coming in probably to make the mortgage payment, so you live for free or practically for free, or at least subsidized. And then over time, you start paying that thing down. You eventually rent out the apartment that you're in, go buy another property, maybe live in that one for a period of time until you get another savings, another pile saved up, and then keep rolling, right? So the snowball idea is buy a property that you live in. You can get very attractive mortgage terms if you're living in the property. So you don't have to promise you're going to live in the property forever. You just have to move in. All right? And I don't recommend moving out the next day, but if you buy a house, two-family, let's say, like I said, live in it, you get great mortgage terms, 4% as an owner-occupant. A little while later, you decide you want to move out. You still have the mortgage. You buy the next place, 4% if the rates stay where they are. Very low mortgage payment, live in there for a bit. Maybe you fix the house up while you live there. You buy something that's beat up, fix it up while you live there, move on to the next one, keep that low-rate mortgage, and keep rolling that snowball. At some point, you want to sell a property. You do what's called a 1031 exchange, which allows you to take the capital gains from that and then roll it into the next property, not paying any capital gains. Snowball, right? The snowball, that analogy is you start to roll it, right? It gets pretty big pretty quick because it's picking up more equity, more snow as it rolls. So another bit of advice is if you really do love real estate, this is a tiny bit self-serving. And did he say where he is, Nathan? Oh, Mississippi. Yeah, Cleveland, Mississippi. You might get a job in the real estate business. Okay, you can specialize in the real estate investment business. You can work for a property manager. We're not there, otherwise I'd offer you a job there. If you want to move someplace nearby, the closest we are is in Alabama.
He says he's moving to the Carolinas in a couple of
Yeah, okay, so if you're moving to the Carolinas, grand@renterswarehouse.com, email me, come in for an interview. We're hiring people right now. It's a straight commission gig where you sell investment property, but you can sell investment property, make a lot of money. One of the things that I've been telling a lot of young people lately is Gary Vaynerchuk, who's become a bit of a hero of mine, talks a lot about working for free. Go find the place you want to work, the people you want to be later on when you grow up, right? And go offer to work for free. Nathan McMasters, who's sitting right on the other side of the camera right here, made his first video for us for free, and then ended up with a full-time job, gainful employment, and now he's living the dream over there. He's not feeling well today, but he came in for this anyway. Straight commission is a way for you to work for free until you sell stuff and then you make money. But you can position yourself to be in the business you want to be in by going and signing up for one of those entry-level sales gigs, all right? That's what I did when I came out of school. I was not employable because of my transcript from school, but I was shot from a cannon. So my early bosses saw that, gave me an opportunity, straight commission. I made nothing for 6 months. I started making good money after that. The next thing you know, I made 6 figures in my second year. Now I was starting to be able to accumulate. And I was learning real estate and I was learning the mortgage business. And over time, if you're in real estate sales, you get your finger on the pulse, you see what's coming on the market, you get access to properties because you're a member of the local multiple listing service and board of realtors. It gives you an inside track. You make a commission when you buy a house yourself. So a great way to get into real estate as an investor is to get into real estate as an agent, earn your money there, and then reinvest it in properties. You spend 20 years in the real estate sales and investment business together, you'll be, I'm guessing he's probably 20 years old, you'll be 40 sitting on a portfolio of maybe 10 or 50 or 75 pieces of real estate. You can never work another day in your life. So I hope that helps. Email me if you want to follow up with the interview thing. All right. Thank you, Nathan. So I heard somebody again just today say that they're waiting for the real estate market to tank because it always does. Right? So the market's been going too good for too long. So they're stockpiling their money waiting for it to tank. And they were actually responding to me when I was talking about how I just bought a house 2 days ago and buying another one this weekend. I've been saving my money up over the last year to make a play. I was looking for the right market in and around Charlotte. I've talked about it on here. You can find it. Real Estate Road Trip, episode 1 talks all about my thesis in Charlotte, why I found the market that I found the neighborhood I found. I'm buying every house that comes on the market in that neighborhood for as long as I can do it. I want to own the whole thing. It's like 75 houses walkable to this train station, so I know it's going to blow up in a good way. But this thing of what goes up comes down in real estate, it's always going up, down, up, down, up, down. It drives me crazy. I want to share some stuff with you. Let me share my screen. So here's a chart on the screen of 1970 or 65 to 2015, all right? And this is up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. This is bear markets. This is corporate profits and valuation, capital consumption, blah, blah, blah. This is basically showing you the stock market. Okay, and the blue line is going up and down, up and down, up and down, and so you couldn't be blamed for believing that the economy goes up and down. The gray vertical lines on the chart here are recessions. So you can see that each time the market plummets, the person who made this chart created a little red line. So you got the bear market of the 70s, you've got the 81 to 82 stock market plummeting, creating a recession. You've got the 1990 stock market crash of 89, like Black Friday, I think they called it. Then you have it again, dot-com bust. Then you have the financial crisis in the late 2000s, right? And so you see this up, down, up, down, up, down. And people would like to relate this to the economy overall, and they like to relate it to the housing market. But here's that same time period in the housing market, okay? Late 1960s to the mid-2010s. Just to give you a little toggle back and forth. Here is the economy, and here is the housing market. Economy, housing market. Now you do see one occurrence 10 years ago of the market plummeting, but just prior to that market plummeting, what do you see? You see the market being unreasonably exuberant, and it went up too fast. Okay, it went up too fast, it came back and corrected. You look at this, and what you're seeing is a market that wants to be gradual, wants to be steady, and then when, because of human intervention, this intervention was the government and the lending industry wanting to give mortgages to anybody who could fog a mirror. You had a lot of people with a lot of funny money in their pockets. They were out overbidding on properties, offering to pay more than they could afford. That artificially drove prices up until the reality set in, the market corrected, and look at that, ended up right where it wanted to be all along. We could be a little bit high right now, but if you look real closely, you'll see that the market is all now leveling off, right? So we're going to wind up going right back to that same trend line. But again, back to this again. Here's the overall. Let me get rid of this slide so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so here's the overall, right? So here we go, back in the early 1980s. See this ugly recession, ugly plummeting of the economy. Look at the early 80s over here. See the flattening right here? That's all that happened. All right, so the housing market flattens. Why? Because housing demand is not about employment, gas prices, financial dot-com. It's not about any of that. It's about population, okay? Unless when the dot-com crash happened, 16 million people left a year out of the United States, then housing would have a big bust associated with it, right? If in the 1980s, gas prices being high, interest rates being high, the economy being in the Jimmy Carter malaise caused people to leave the country, then population would be gone, therefore demand for housing would be diminished. When the economy stinks, it doesn't mean people start living in tents, okay? So what you see is a flattening of the market. Prices didn't rise for a bit, and the reason was the economy sucked, all right? Now you go over to 1990, right? Market was pretty good. All of a sudden it crashes, stock market crashes, another recession sets in. What happens in the housing market in 1990? Prices go flat again. One of the guilty parties in creating this perception that the market goes up and down is actually none other than the real estate industry themselves, the people who sell houses for a living. They have never seen this chart unless they're watching right now. The industry of residential real estate, the realtors, don't get mad at me, guys, because I come from that industry, so I can say this with some impunity. It's like Mary Kay Cosmetics meets real estate, all right? It was an industry that never took the asset class seriously, okay? It's been about recruiting somebody else's real estate. It's an industry by real estate agents for real estate agents. Real estate agents never cared about what the economic value of real estate was. So they talk about the market crashing in 1980 because their business crashed. Nobody was buying houses when gas prices were way up and rates were 18%. So their business crashed, but the market didn't crash yet. In their history, they talk about this. They talk about the crash of 1990. Their business crashed in 1990 because their business was associated with all this craziness in the economy, but the housing market didn't. The only thing that causes the housing market to reduce in value, and it only happened one time, by the way, here's 1940 to 2010, according to the US Census. All right, now I don't have it month by month, I just have it year by year, but I don't think you're gonna find a whole lot of ups and downs in this chart either. And in fact, if you look at 2010, this chart made it pretty clear that something was out of whack in 2010, right? Look how tall that tower is right there. That bar is too high. All right, when 2020 comes along, it's gonna be right along this line right here. So it will have corrected. But we're talking about the recession, of the Great Depression all the way through the Great Recession. There was no example of in any 10-year period the prices going down, and along the way, it really wasn't that way either. So people will tell me, well, Greg, in the west side of Manhattan, I'm not talking about micro, okay? Well, I remember back when, in South Charlotte, I'm not talking about micro, I'm talking about macro real estate trends, it doesn't go down. So when you have somebody telling you they're waiting for the market to tank, they're gonna wait for a very, very long time for the market to tank, because unless we see the market get overly exuberant and the prices go too crazy, the minute you see lenders giving away funny money, no money down, anybody can qualify by fogging a mirror, then I would say maybe watch and see how that develops. But whenever you hear the nonsense about what goes up must come down, say you must be talking about the stock market, not the real estate market. Doesn't happen. Okay? Hopefully you find that useful. We got somebody?
Yeah.
I am a 20-year-old college student who wants to invest in real estate. Currently, I have $300 saved, and my goal is to save $50 more each month. Do I have to wait until I save a few $1,000s before investing?
Yeah, keep waiting till you have money saved. So the question there, awesome that these guys are responding and the young people are coming on board. Yeah, I want to implore you to look at this thing as a very, very long-term strategy, okay? The people who lose in real estate are the ones who try to make a fast score or who get in too thin, meaning they don't make a big down payment, so they have a big mortgage payment. Like if you buy a house and your mortgage payment is $1,000 a month and your taxes are $200 a month, so you're spending $1,200 a month and your rent is $1,300. What happens when the air conditioner breaks? You're underwater, right? What happens when your tenant moves out and you have to get somebody else and you lose a month or two? You're underwater. So if you're buying a piece of real estate, one of the objectives that I would like you to have is never, under any circumstances, to ever lose any money. All right? So the house is going to get more valuable over time. If for some reason there's an interim, like you need to choose where you're buying well. All right? Important point that I started to make earlier is like, pay attention to what's happening in the markets that you know. The place that you live, you go to college, right? College towns are great. College towns have awesome long-term demand. So as long as the college is continuing to win, the town will continue to win as well. All right, college towns have not just student housing off campus, but they also have a lot of support services and everything else. So they tend to be really robust places that have an economic engine that is the college. If you buy in a quality place, it's going to get a little more valuable every year. Depending on where, it'll be anywhere from 2 to 5% more valuable every year. You should be able to generate a profit every month the place is occupied. So if you wind up going a month or two underwater, it's no big deal. If your payment, again to my example, if you're generating $1,300 a month in income and your expenses are $1,200, you're tight. If your expenses are $800, you're in good shape, right? So if you lose a couple of months of income, you've got a couple of months of profit from the prior months to cover that loss, right? Just give yourself, approach it this way. The minute you put your first dollar in a coffee can and start saving and start doing your research, you've begun, all right? You've begun. The research that you can do, let me show you the Renters Warehouse Research Center. I don't think I've talked about that in a while. Let me get that up on the screen here. Renters Warehouse, we have been servicing big, massive investors. Why is this saying hide? Big, massive investors for a long time, and we use awesome data to service them. And if you go to renterswarehouse.com/research, you're going to see the visualization of this data that we're giving away. This data costs us, no joke, over $500,000 a year to have it to service our clients and to analyze the portfolios that we manage and to make sure that we know what's happening. This is a bite-sized piece of that. You can see this chart is that long-term 20-year price appreciation chart for the country. And I can enter in any county that I want. Let's put in, give me a county. Somebody shout a county out to me.
Broward County.
Broward. Thank you. Broward County, Florida. You're going to see Broward now be overlaid, and the state of Florida is getting overlaid. So what you see here is the blue line is the U.S., the green line is Broward County, and the black line is the state of Florida. So in each one of these cases, you had the boom, the correction, the recovery. The national average is 3.4%. The state average is 5.6%, pretty good. The county average is 7.12%. That's one of the best ones I've seen in the country. That is an average over 20 years. All right? So buying a piece of real estate in Broward County that you can afford and sitting on it, you're going to get a 7% return if history continues to go out. This is not last month or last year or the last 2 years. This is a 20-year average of 7%. Why is that happening? Because South Florida has the quality of life, cost of living, and no state income tax, and the people in New York and Boston, D.C., Ohio, Chicago, Detroit are moving down, and there's nothing stopping them. The economy goes well, they move to Florida. The economy goes badly, they move to Florida, right? It doesn't matter. So that population growth means that the market's gonna, so there are people who freaked out during this downturn right here and sold. They shouldn't have, because it all came back, right? So long story short, buy quality property you can afford, but consider yourself in the game the minute you start saving and the minute you start researching. Let's do the call-in one.
Hello, this is Tim.
Hey Tim, it's Greg Rand from Renters Warehouse. How are you?
Hey, Greg. Good.
Good, thanks for letting us call you. What's your question?
Yeah, I do have a question. You know, I own a couple rentals, but I acquired those several years ago, and I'm looking at acquiring a few more. The market's different now. You have to pay full price for these things, and my question is, when is it worthwhile, or when is it not, to have a new property with basically zero cash flow? Is that a good investment, or is that a bad one?
Yeah, I wouldn't go zero cash flow. Where are you investing, Tim?
Yeah, it'd be in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I should give you a disclaimer that I'm working out those figures of zero cash flow by way of a 20-year amortization and 100% finance. So, you know, my argument is you could always make it look any way you want. If I go in there with a $30,000 down payment, well, now I have positive cash flow. But my goal is to actually use zero of my funds, borrow everything, and basically earn over time through equity.
Now, how are you getting 100% financing from the seller?
No, actually, it's a commercial loan for 80%. The other 20% I borrow from my other company.
Okay. All right. So that's a good question. So what Tim is saying is that his objective is to build equity, and he wants to work with none of his own money. So you're going in with your eyes wide open, right? You know that if you rent the property out and you're at break even because you took a maximum loan on it, that is it going to be a quality property in a place that's going to be easy to keep occupied?
Yeah, I believe so. And it's one of the big risks is that it is a condo, so it appreciates much slower than a single-family residence. But what I do like about this, and this is similar to my other properties, is that I don't have to maintain the outside. I don't have to worry about the roof. The HOA is sound. All I have to worry about is the things inside. And all of those things will gut and replace when we take it over.
Okay, so you're gonna do 100% financing, but you're also gonna spend some money out of pocket to get it renovated?
Yes, correct. About 10,000, 12,000 maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, so a couple of things. One is that I think it sounds like you know what you're doing. You'll raise the rents over a little bit of time, and you'll be able to start seeing a positive cash flow. The idea of amortizing a loan over 20 years and pounding down that debt so that 20 years from now, how old are you, Tim?
40.
40. Okay. So you'll be 60. The thing will be paid off, and I guess that's part of the objective, right? Is to build the nest egg.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 60 is around the corner, bro. I was 40 yesterday, now I'm 50, so it starts to go fast, but you know that already. The only thing, I would just caution you, put a cushion on the side so that when you do have vacancy, are you hiring a third-party property management company to supervise this for you, or doing it yourself?
No, it's a local property, so I do that myself.
All right, so you'll set the alerts in your own calendar when 90 days are up or you're 90 days out from a lease expiration, making sure people want to renew. I would try to do the long-term leases so you don't have to think about it for 2 years at a clip. Obviously, treat your customers / your tenants really well so that they want to stay, because you're in competition with home ownership, right? They're going to be looking at condos up and down the road there that are just like the one they live in and starting to think about buying one. So you want to make the experience really wonderful for them so they stay a little bit longer.
Okay.
As long as you're buying quality and you know what you're doing, and you're hanging on to it for 20 years, you got the most important part right, which is you got a good location, you know what you're doing, and you got your eyes open, and you're going to hold it for 20 years. I'd love to see you put a down payment down to give yourself a cushion, but I like. What town did you say it was in again?
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville. See, I like that. I like Knoxville. You know what? I'm going to put in Knox County on the screen here because I want to take a look and see how it's gone. Knox County, Tennessee. Let's see how Knox County's been performing for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Been pretty flat.
I can tell you it's a tight market. It's difficult to find anything at wholesale. Okay.
Yeah, so this is real flat. So the market has not really gone, oh, sorry, excuse me. I thought it said 0.7%. It's 7%. I got to put here we go. All right, now you can see it, right? Knoxville is the green line, Knox County. So it's slightly recession-proof, didn't go up as high, didn't come down as low during the down times. It's a very steady curve, but it's been going solid as a rock, 7% average over the last 20 years. That's a big winner. And everything in Tennessee is winning also. So like I look at Knoxville and Chattanooga as kind of like following in the footsteps of Nashville in some ways, where it's caught the attention of a lot of people in the colder climates. Are you seeing a lot of that, Tim, in your market? People moving in from colder places up north?
A little bit. I think the most attractive thing about this state is no income tax.
Right. Yep, no income tax. That's catching on. And so I like it. A lot of people that we know who are investors only want to talk about the profitability on the yield. If you put down 35%, you'd be generating a good return cash on that.
Yeah.
So location wise, and knowing yourself well enough to know you want no maintenance, that all kind of makes sense to me. So I think it's a good plan as long as you know what to expect if the place goes vacant.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks.
All right, cool, man. Thank you. Appreciate the call.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye-bye. Who else we got? Anybody?
I'm a newbie to real estate investment. I'm looking to get into multifamily properties, focusing on Wisconsin and Illinois in the short term. I'm currently very much in the learning process and researching phase. Any help would be appreciated.
Okay, awesome. Find out what county, just Dune County? All right, let me put Dune. Dane? All right, Dane County, Wisconsin. All right, so let's pull this up and see what it looks like. So that's great. I love that you came out of college and the first thing you want to do is get into real estate. You'd be amazed at the decade of your 20s and 30s if you're spending time and energy beginning to get your feet wet and building the portfolio here. You're really onto something great. So I kind of gave the advice earlier to somebody else, to Nathan, about, work hard, save your money. I'll again borrow a page out of Gary Vaynerchuk's book where he talks about the fact that, hey, you can live at home, you can live cheaply, you can live in a crappy apartment with a couple of other friends and stockpile your money. I was one of those guys in my younger days that when I started making money, I started spending it, and I could have done better. I could have done more in my earlier days and accumulated more. I made good money, but I was driving too nice of a car, living in too nice of a place, impressing everybody. But I would be much more impressed right now if I had 5 more houses paid off. So, live humbly and scrap your money together and save. And the research, if you're starting to do the homework, some of the things that I would do is if you know where you want to be. I'm looking at Dane right now, and it's funny, it matches up exactly with the national average. The state average has a bad data point at the end of the chart here, so I don't believe that. But you're right at the national average, which is just good. What it means is that the volatility is not there. You've kind of tracked with the rest of the country. One of the things I'll point out to you that you might get a kick out of is, see the heartbeat in this chart? Okay, the high number here in 2010 was August. The high number here is July. High number here is July again. June. July, June. You get the idea? The low points in these charts are February, December. Right? What does that tell you? Well, it's cold up there, right? And the holidays are important to people. The reason why the spring market is the time when people come out, everybody knows. Like, again, realtors know that the spring market is busy. They all say, get out there and sell property. But they don't know that if you're trying to get a better price the demand is softer during the holidays. It's a combination of the springtime is beautiful. People get a little bit enthusiastic and they want to go out and move, but they also want to get in before the school year starts. And so the spring market is where most of the appreciation in the year takes place. It's where the prices are driven up by more demand, and it gets softer during the winter months because it's cold and because Christmas and Hanukkah and Thanksgiving and all that distracts everybody. So when you're buying in the fourth quarter, you're among a much smaller group of buyers. And so you tend to get a better price. Okay, there's usually less inventory also to choose from, but loading up in the fourth quarter is a good idea if you live in a cold climate. But also go and start paying attention to places that are undergoing change. Like I talked about a couple of properties that I'm buying right now. They're in a town called Belmont, North Carolina. I'm an idiot to say this out loud because I'm competing with other people for these houses, but Belmont is to the west of Charlotte by about 20 minutes drive. The western trajectory outside of Charlotte is the last of the suburbs around Charlotte to kind of catch on. And so it's anchored by a town called Gastonia that's about Belmont's halfway between Charlotte and Gastonia. Gastonia is a little bit dinged up. It's going through a revitalization right now. The prices there are going to be really good. But I'm going to Belmont because Belmont is a college town. It's a gorgeous town. Every other store in downtown is a restaurant or a bar or a coffee shop. And they just got approval for light rail to commute to Uptown. So I'm buying everything I can in the cheapest neighborhood in Belmont. I'm going to market it to people who want to commute. It's a commuter's dream. You can walk to the train station from this neighborhood. You can walk to the restaurants and coffee shops from the neighborhood. Hop on a train. You're into Uptown Charlotte in 15 minutes. It's good. I'm going to be able to bump the rents. I'm going to buy parking passes if I can at the train station for my tenants. Right? I'm making this an experience and a lifestyle deal. Look around and see what you can find in and around the areas that you want to invest in. There might be a town that's looking banged up right now, but you can see some evidence of a strip of stores that had kind of gone dark that are now lighting back up again. Look around there. Any kind of mass transit. Follow where Home Depot and Lowe's are opening stores. Those kinds of stores are long-term decisions by very smart people who want to be there for 100 years, who think that people are going to be improving their homes. It's a direct tie-in to real estate demand. Starbucks is a tie-in to people who are willing to overpay for coffee and lifestyle. Anytime you see those kind of decisions, they think that there are people there who are going to be willing to live and spend money. Go to a planning board meeting. They publish that on your town website. Planning board meetings are where when people want to put a sign out in front of their store, they have to get approval for it. You can get a feel of the way the government feels about investors and businesses in a town. There are some towns where they just don't like them. They don't want anything to change. You can pick up on that by the vibe you get when somebody says, I want to put an awning in front of my store, and they say, no awnings. You know that this person, the people on the planning board have a control freak mentality, and maybe you want to avoid that, okay? You can make mistakes. I'll give you an example of that. I bought a vacation property in Seabrook Island, South Carolina. It's right next to Kiowa Island, South Carolina. It's 60% of the prices. So I bought there because I thought, why wouldn't it equalize, right? It should equalize. What I found out too late is the people that run that island do not want anybody coming in. They like the gate out front. They don't want anybody to know about it. They don't want anybody to market it. They won't let you to put a sign in front of your house when it's for sale. They won't allow properties for sale to go on Zillow. They do everything they can to keep their little piece of heaven from changing. And the property values in that market, Charleston overall, the coast of Charleston where this island is, has taken off over the last bunch of years. That island has stayed stunted. I looked at it over the weekend last weekend. It's actually down in value this year. I'm sorry, it's flat. It's like up like 0.7% or 0.5% from last year. And Zillow's projecting it to be down next year. Their algorithm is showing soft demand, properties sitting on the market. So there you have a local government, essentially, that is trying to keep anybody from finding out about this place. If demand can't make its way there, you've got a problem. So governments can actually get in your way. So allow that to be part of your research. Be patient, save your money, buy things of high quality. Here, I'll show you guys while we're waiting, Charleston County, South Carolina. So imagine this chart and imagine, see the green line? Look how well that's been doing. 6.2%, Seabrook Island, flat. Hey Mark, this is Greg Rand from Renters Warehouse. How are you?
Hey, Greg.
Hey, thanks for letting us call you. You got a question?
Yes. My question was, you mentioned that you were buying in the beginning. You were buying a couple of properties at asking price, and I was just wondering if you found something that needed renovation over in the location that you liked. Would you still be, do you still consider renovations, or do you just, I guess maximize?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's funny. This is a personal quirk of mine. I'm not. There is a house that I looked at this week that needs renovation, and I'm taking a pass on it. And the reason is that I'm just too busy right now.
Okay.
My company got bought by Renters Warehouse in January. I've got a lot of responsibility here, running the national sales organization and running our media stuff. And so I don't have the energy. Plus, the joke I always make is that my hands are so soft, bro, that when I hold a baby, my hands get chafed. So I can't do anything myself. I also don't really have a great team of contractors, and I don't have a lot of time to supervise anything. And so I'm leaving some money on the table in order to stay on the wave tops and move quickly. So my goal on this thing is I'll probably buy 15, 20 houses in that neighborhood over the next few years. And I think they'll probably be worth 50% more 10 years from now. So that's my play, and I'm keeping it simple.
Okay. So if somebody has a little bit more time, do you recommend somebody do you recommend still doing renovation and adding some
for sure
there, or
absolutely,
in hindsight, I guess?
Yeah, no, I would. If you have the energy and the attention and some skills and some aptitude, none of which I have, I definitely recommend it. And I'll give you an example why. Both of the houses that I'm buying that are renovated, I wasn't in on the renovation, so I have an inspection being done, and I'm sort of like trying to use my X-ray vision to make sure they did a good job behind the plumbing, right? So I'm taking a risk that the renovation wasn't done by me or supervised by me. I'm okay with that because I kind of know what I'm doing in terms of looking at the quality of the workmanship. But if you do it, number one, it is true that if a house is worth $200,000 in what's called ARV, after repair value, it's going to cost $20,000 to get it to ARV. You don't pay $180 for it, put in $20 and it's worth $200. You probably pay $165, right?
Maybe less.
Yeah, maybe less. And if you find a property that's actually in bad enough shape that it probably won't sell to a home buyer, right? The one that I looked at had a back porch that was crooked, right? When I see a crooked back porch, I'm wondering how much. It was clear to me that the owner that lived there built that back porch, and he also did some touch-up paint without taping anything. So there was literally paint on the glass on his windows. So that screamed to me that here's a guy who's been fixing his own place up, doing a lousy job. There may be a lot of ugliness behind the scenes there. Nobody's going to buy that house to live in it. It's going to scare a lot of home buyers off, so they're not going to get their price. I may actually see now you're inspiring me, making me feel lazy. So now I feel like I got to go back and look again and see if I can get it cheaper and control the renovation myself. But yeah, you should be able to manufacture some equity by virtue of buying something in bad shape, because the market for bad properties in a hot market is usually pretty thin. If you renovate it efficiently and do a good job, you'll see some value right there. Would you plan on selling it right away, or are you going to hang on to it and rent it out?
I would hang on to it and rent it.
Okay, good. That's the right plan. Where did you say you were?
I'm in Charlotte.
You're in Charlotte. Awesome. Okay, well, you got to come see us, man. We have your number now, so we're gonna stick some salespeople on you to sell you some property. No, do you want to? You know what? You should actually get in touch with me after this. Let's give a call back after, because I'll turn you on to the house that I just passed on, and maybe you want to jump on that, because it's I really did find a gem here, and that's my strong suit, is finding the places that are going to increase in value much faster than the rest of the market. So I'd be happy to share that information with you, and you can pick off the ones that I'm passing on.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
All right, cool, man. Thanks for calling.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Thanks.
Have a great weekend.
All your wisdom. Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
All right. Anything else? All right. We're good. All right. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this. Tell your friends. Share this. Pass it along. Contact me at grand@renterswarehouse.com. Follow us, GS Rands, on Instagram, GS Rand on Facebook. Are we GS Rand on YouTube?
Yep.
Okay. GS Rand on YouTube. We put a lot of stuff on YouTube. If you're looking to get educated on real estate investing along these lines, this long-term buy and hold, accumulate America strategy, we have hours and hours and hours. We've got free classes on there, Don't pay for real estate education. You don't need to. All right, we give everything we know away, including expensive data, including all the know-how that we have, because we hope that you'll hire us to sell your property and manage it for you. And if you don't, we're just happy to, put something good out there in the universe. All right, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for being here.